Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be doing another edition of the Reading Mass Market Paperback First Chapters, but this time, instead of doing random ones and not letting you know what they are, you may have seen from the thumbnail, I have picked 5 what I'm going to call classic type books. So these are all a little bit older. I think the newest thing on here is 98, which doesn't feel like that long ago. But everything else is at least a bit older than that. But these are, instead of being random, all first books in series. I'm pretty sure all of these are series, yeah. Except for one, there's a standalone in there. But these are all books that I have very much heard good things about, and that I don't plan on getting rid of any of these. This is more, I've never actually tried these books out, so I'm curious to see how they are, and I will be choosing one to priority read as well out of these, because these are all books that I've meant to get to for quite some time for the most part. So first up is Black Sun Rising by C.S. Friedman. This actually was specifically requested. You normally, back in the old put out view, you can see I had it up there on the shelf. And this one was specifically requested, so I'm like, why don't I do just a general classic video as well? So this one is from 1991, and just look at that freaking cover. Like, that's awesome. I mean, Michael Whelan is always great, but this is just so cool with like the glowing sword, and love this cover. Pretty awesome. And this one, though, I believe is more on the sci-fi side, if I am correct. But let's read, maybe I'm wrong, let's read the blurb here. The Power of the Fae. Over a millennium ago, Erna, a seismically active yet beautiful world, was settled by colonists from far distant Earth. But the seemingly habitable planet was fraught with perils no one could have foretold, and the colonists found themselves caught in a desperate battle for survival against the Fae, a terrifying natural force with the power to prey on the human mind itself, drawing forth a person's worst nightmare images or most treasured dreams and indiscriminately giving them life. 12 centuries after fate first stranded the colonists on Erna, mankind has achieved an uneasy stalemate, and human sorcerers manipulate the Fae for their own profit, little realizing that demonic forces which feed upon such efforts are rapidly growing in strength. Now, as the hordes of the dark Fae multiply, 4 people, priest, adept, apprentice, and sorcerer, are about to be drawn inexorably together for a mission which will force them to confront an evil beyond their imagining, in a conflict which will put not only their own lives, but the very fate of humankind in jeopardy. So this sounds still pretty fantasy, but they travel to another planet. So I guess that counts as sci-fi, but this should be really interesting. I don't know a ton about this. C.S. Friedman is one of those authors I've heard of for a long time, but have never read. So let's start with this one and take a look. Let's first check if there's a map, because I kept forgetting there is no map. And we do have a prologue, but let's see how long we're going to have to read here. I knew it was going to be long. I think all of these are going to be pretty long, to be honest. So 35 pages. That's actually not the worst. We had longer before, but let's jump in with Black Sun Rising Prologue and Chapter 1. Okay, so first of all, what a prologue on this one. So the prologue starts with kind of introducing this world, and what seems like is being set up is, so like the Somewhere in the Back said, at some point colonists came from Earth to try and colonize this planet, but the Fae, which is like the magic force of the world, which creates nightmares and things, and is responsive to the humans' thoughts, basically kind of wiped some of them out, or people were killed, and so civilization kind of had from the colonists had to kind of rebuild, and it's the church had a revival and became powerful, and it sounds like it's kind of like a neo-Gothic kind of style world that's being set up now. And the prologue had following the POV of a woman who was out and talking about all the things that her husband had done, was apparently a really important member of the church and an important war leader, and had created creatures that were like horses and cats, and kind of was like using the force of the Fae to do these things and try to recreate things that they had on Earth. And then as she comes in, you could see her like that she's terribly afraid, and he brings her beneath the castle, and he's already sacrificed their children, and then he sacrifices her in order to basically keep living and try to take control of this power. So already, like, really good prologue, very, very interesting. And then the first chapter, there was nothing wrong with it, but it's just like I'm not sure where it's going quite yet. But we get another characters coming in, and we learn quite a lot about the world. There's a lot of world building that's done between the prologue and the first chapter to see what's going on. And I'm definitely very intrigued by this one so far. This sounds super interesting. Prologue very engaging. First chapter did a lot of setup as well. So starting off with a positive note. Like I said, I'm not expecting to dislike any of these, but we'll definitely see. But we're starting off good. So next up is The Golden Key. So this is by Melanie Ron, Jennifer Roberson, and Kate Elliott. So Kate Elliott, I'm a big fan of. I've not read Ron or Roberson. I do intend to. This is a standalone, and you can probably tell from the cover, I think this is like in like a Victorian time. But I think it's still fantasy adjacent for the most part. So let's read the summary of this one. So, in Magic's Image. In the Duchy of Tiravirte, fine art is prized above all things, both for its beauty and as a binding legal record of everything from marriages and births to treatises and inheritances. And although the Grand Duke is aware that there is more to the paintings of certain master limners than meets the eye, not even he knows just how extraordinary the art of the Grijalva family truly is. For certain males of their bloodline are born with a frightening magical talent, the ability to manipulate time and reality within their paintings, a gift which enables them to alter events and influence people in the real world. Always their power has been used solely to aid the Tiravirte and its ruler, always until the time of Serio Grijalva. Serio, driven by his own passion and ambition, has learned to use his gift in a whole new way. Obsessed with both his magic and his beautiful, adored cousin, Saavedra, Serio will do anything to win her love. Unable to bear it when Saavedra gives her heart to another, he takes a first fateful step beyond the boundaries previously placed on Grijalva's spellcasting, capturing his cousin with forbidden arts. And it is this rash and dangerous act which sets in motion a generations-spanning pattern of treachery and betrayal, which may cause both the Grijalvas and Tiravirte to pay a terrible price. That sounds really weird. Like I said, I've heard good things. It's got 3, I feel like, pretty big authors on it, so it was definitely something I was planning to try. This is one of those times, though, where I don't know how I feel about that description, but we will find out. And fun fact, this is one of the few times I did not recognize it. This is also a Michael Whelan. It's just a very different style than I'm used to seeing for him. So I did not even know, but this is also Michael Whelan. I wonder how many of the other ones are, too. But, so, there you go. He's got range. Let's see. So, this seems interesting. We do have a map. So this does appear to take place in a fictional world. I'll try and show you that map here. In the shape of a circle. So it looks like that's, yeah, it's not the actual map. It's just like a picture as if a globe. This has a history in art as well. So this is kind of an odd format. So let's see. I'm trying to see if this has like... So this does appear to have a sort of prologue, and then it does have numbered chapters. So that was the first thing I was going to look at. The first chapter challenge is hard when there aren't chapters. So I'm not going to read the history of art right now. I may go back and read that if this is the one that I pick, but so I'm just going to read what appears to be the prologue and the first chapter. Yeah, it's not labeled the prologue, but it's not the history of art thing. So I'm assuming that's where we're going to start. So we'll do that and then check back and see how it goes. This was an interesting one. Definitely has kind of a like Renaissance feel to it. There's a lot of words or terms that seem to be some sort of like amalgamation or like kind of like there's some Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, some like other just Latin root type stuff that's used here. And so it's interesting because I checked a few things on Google Translate really quick to see, and there were some things that were at least like actual words, because like the part where it's the history of the paintings, it says Pintrados Históricos is apparently Spanish for historical painting, like Spain Spanish. But some of the other words were really similar to like Spanish, Italian, something like that, but not quite right. So it's like you can get what they mean if you have a really basic knowledge. And granted, I have the extremely basic knowledge of those languages. You can kind of get what they mean, even though they're not actually in those languages. Was interesting. I don't know how I feel about this otherwise. It was definitely different. Starting up talking about kind of the painting and like learning a bit about the world and like this family of people who can do the special paintings, and it seems like there's going to be a lot of politics involved here. This feels like it would be a very slow book, which I would expect from Elliot. I know her stuff tends to kind of start a little bit slower. The prose was fantastic. Like this seemed like this would be good, but it definitely didn't pull me in nearly as much as Black Sun Rising, which was a lot more exciting. This seems more of the slow, like political type stuff going on probably. So still good, but it's not going to win for the one I'm going to pick out of the 5 for right now. That's for sure. All right, so next up is Dragon Prince by Melanie Ron, and this is book 1 in the Dragon Prince series. Okay. It's the series is called Dragon Prince 2, which I didn't realize. And so this is from... Oh, I lost my list here. The other one is Golden Key, if I didn't say, is from 96. This is from 1985. And this also nice old school type fantasy cover. This is, I was about to say, I'm like pretty darn positive this is also Michael Whelan, and it is. So we've got a lot of Whelan representation with the first 3 books here so far. Nothing wrong with that. So let's read the back of this one. The Dragon Lord. When Rohan became the new prince of the desert, ruler of the kingdom granted his family for as long as the long sand spewed fire, he took the crown with 2 goals in mind. First and foremost, he sought to bring permanent peace to his world of divided princedoms, realms hovering always on the brink of war, and in a land where dragon slaying was a proof of manhood, Rohan was the sole champion of the dragons, fighting desperately to preserve the last remaining lords of the sky, and with them a secret which might be the salvation of his people. And his Sunrunner witch, Cyanid, who was fated by fire to be Rohan's bride, has mastered the magic of sunlight and moonglow, catching hints of a yet-to-be-formed pattern which could irrevocably affect the destinies of Sunrunners and ordinary mortals alike. Yet caught in the machinations of the Lady of Goddess Keep and of, and of Prince Rohan and his sworn enemy, the treacherously cunning High Prince could Cyanid after his crucial pattern to protect her lord from the menace of a war that threatened to set the land ablaze. All right, so there we go. At least, I think all but Black Sun Rising... Nope, it did too. All 3 of these are like that old school where it has like a little introduction where you can read a little thing and see if you think you're going to like it. Apparently there is another book in the Golden Key universe that's not a direct sequel, according to this fun fact. So this one, we got another picture in here. And oh my lord, the tiniest map I think I've ever seen. In a book, we get one page like that. Very, very small. Hard to read even for me, so I can't imagine you can read a whole lot of that. But pretty normal looking map. And we have part 1, Faces in Fire. And hey, no prologue, just a chapter 1. Of course, it looks like it's a 30-page chapter 1, as revenge for me celebrating that there was no prologue. But let's jump in and see what we think. Alright, so chapter 1 of Dragon Prince done. So this is setting up kind of from what it said, basically. We're following a prince who rules over an area like in the desert. And talking about how he's out on a hunt to kill a dragon, because, you know, it's just what one does to pass the time. So starting with Dragon Hunt, pretty cool. And then talking about his son, who's his heir, is not interested in killing dragons and is good at fighting and all, but is more like into books and whatnot. And so setting up, he doesn't know if he wants him to, you know, really be the heir, doesn't know if he's going to be a strong enough leader to be the heir. And then we have a conversation between the mother level princess. There's different princesses multiple times, but Rohan's mother is talking to her twin sister, and we get some like exposition about the political situation, what's going on, and also the fact that they need to marry him off before the High Prince can try to have one of his daughters marry them and eventually try and like take their land and whatnot. And there's also kind of talk about, you know, already starting where like, what if the dragons do die off and how that'll happen. And then the prince, who's the Rohan's father, is like mortally injured fighting the dragon, and so maybe he'll be taking over even sooner than expected. So definitely interesting. Really, really has that kind of classic fantasy feel. Also had a note where Rohan, you know, doesn't like, he's not interested in most of the like women around and everything, because he's much more of a thinker and he wants someone smart. So kind of do that where he gets a smart woman to marry, it sounds like, too. And so very, very classic feeling. Definitely interested here as well. So I mean, that one stays in contention. Next up, we have Green Rider by Kristen Britton. So this one is the newest one in the bunch. This is from 98. So it's not all that old by any means, but I know this is one too. There's a lot of books in the series. A lot of people really love this, so I just included it here because it's, you know, it's at least still, you know, almost 25 years old. So I'm like, it's old enough to include. So let's read the back of this one. The Magical Messenger. On her long journey home from school after a fight which will surely lead to her expulsion, Kerrigan Galadion ponders her future as she trudges through the immense forest called Greencloak. But her thoughts are interrupted by the clattering of hooves as a galloping horse bursts from the woods, the rider slumped over his mount's neck, impaled by 2 black-shafted arrows. As the young man lies dying on the road, he tells Kerrigan that he is a Green Rider, one of the legendary messengers of the king, and that he bears a life-and-death message for King Zachary. He begs Kerrigan to carry his message, warning her not to read it, and when she reluctantly agrees, he makes her swear on his sword to complete his mission for love of her country, and he bestows upon her the golden-winged horse brooch, which is the symbol of his office. He whispers on his dying breath, "Beware the Shadow Man." Kerrigan's promise changes her life forever, pursued by unknown assassins, following a path only her horse seems to know, and accompanied by the silent specter of the original messenger, she herself becomes a legendary Green Rider. Caught up in a world of deadly danger and complex magic, compelled by forces she cannot understand, Kerrigan is hounded by dark beings bent on seeing that the message and its reluctant carrier never reach their destination. Alright, so let's see. No map. I would have expected a map on this one, but no map, actually. So that's too bad. And this one is not, I was going to say, that doesn't look like Whelan. This one's not Michael Whelan. So we finally broke the chain. We have a non-Michael Whelan one. This looks like it has a very short first chapter. It looks like it's one of those books where it just has like titles but not chapter numbers, but it looks like that's the first chapter. So this should be quick read, but let's read it and find out. Okay, so the first part did read more like a prologue, but I'm going to take the technicality of it technically being a chapter because all the other ones were really long and having a short one was nice right now. So it starts out with like some sort of being called the Grey One, which seems like an evil force, which is trapped on the other side of a wall, and then he kills some people. Like he makes a crack on the wall and then kills some people, and then like it sounds like raises them from the dead to go and try to stop this Green Rider. So I assume then the next chapter is going to be what we read on the back too. So I figure that's fine. But definitely starting interesting. So far, it's not beating out either Dragon Prince or Black Sun Rising now, which means the last chance for one of those to be defeated is with Dragon's Bane by Barbara Hambly, which this one is the shortest by far. So I almost hope it wins. But I'm going to pick whichever one happens to go. So this will be, once again, very nice classic fantasy type of cover here. And this one, I don't think is a Whelan, but it could be. This one's also from 85. Let's see if I'm wrong. It is a Michael Whelan. Okay. Some of these older ones, it's just they look a little bit different. So, yep, that's another Whelan. So the only one that's not is Green Rider, which is also the newest one. But the only one of these that's not Michael Whelan is Green Rider with it. But let's read this one. So this starts with the man who slew a dragon. When the black dragon seized the deep of Ilfrdan, young Gareth braved the far winterlands to find John Averson, Dragonsbane, the only living man ever to slay a dragon. In return for the promise of the king to send help to the Winterlands, Averson agreed to attempt the nearly impossible feat again. With them, to guard them on the haunted trip south, went Jenny Waynest, a half-taught sorceress and mother of Averson's sons. But at the decadent court, nothing was as expected. Rebellion threatened the land. Zyron, a sorceress of seemingly unlimited power, held the king under an evil spell, and he refused to see them. Meantime, the dragon fed well off the knights who had challenged him. In the end, Averson, Jenny, and Gareth had to steal away at night to challenge Morkaleb, largest and wisest of the dragons. But that was only the beginning of the perils they must face. Yeah, if there's something that sounds more classic fantasy than that, I challenge you to find it, because that sounds a very, very, very classic fantasy. So I'm interested in this one. This is another one where I've heard of this author in this book for a really long time, but I've never read anything from Barbara Hambly. This we have a couple of different maps here. We have the Realm of the King and then another area. This one much more detailed. It's always nice to get a map. No prologue either, and only 20 pages. That's actually pretty good. Besides Green Rider, this is the shortest chapter 1. So let's read this one and then close out and make a decision. Now this had a fun beginning. So we open with Jenny the witch, who is traveling and like trying to be really sneaky and like uses a spell to distract these bandits because in the north it's like very violent and whatnot. And she's creeping past them. She's done her spell so that they won't notice her. And then someone yells, "Hey, look out!" trying to warn her. And up comes galloping Gareth, who's like a young man dressed in finery and like fancies himself a knight errant on a message and coming to rescue her, where she has to fight them off and then save his butt from the bandits before they all run off. And then so traveling, and he's going to find the Dragon Slayer, John Averson, and going to find him, and he's talking about like the ballad, and she's like, "No, it didn't happen that way," and is telling him what happened. And then they arrive to like this village, and he's like, "Yep, here's his hold," and they're coming to him, and he ends up being just this basically. He's just like looks like any other yokel. He's standing in a pigsty talking about pigs. And so Gareth is just like freaking out, not understanding how this could possibly be him. So this seemed like a lot of fun. And so with this, I'm really torn between either Black Sun Rising, which this was the one that intrigued me the most. This, though, seems like it'll be a really fun, good read as well. So these are the two I'm going to say kind of tie for very different reasons. So since I'm doing mood reading right now anyway, I'll see which one I end up going. But both of these I am going to work on reading here very soon. All of these books I've talked about, of course, are ones that I do absolutely plan to get to. Those two, though, are definitely get the most points for this one. So, those are the 5 first chapters from Mass Market Paperbacks, the Classics Edition. I do still plan on doing more of these since people have seemed to like them. So let me know your thoughts on these books. If there are any others, like I said, if you think I should jockey my order around, definitely let me know. Otherwise, make sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Check the link in the description for the Wizardly Do It Discord if you want to chat these books, other books, any books, really anything at all. It is a lot of fun and we would love to have you. And of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.